I can't get them undone. Please, mister, wake up. I can't get it.
You leave him there and you die with him, do you hear me? The voice snapped through clenched teeth. As Eli froze at the edge of the trees and saw the rich man tied to a trunk, like someone had tried to erase him from the world, the forest looked calm, but it felt wrong, like the air was holding a secret. Wet leaves clung to Eli's shoes. Pine smell mixed with something bitter, like fear. The man on the tree wore a ruined suit, expensive fabric ripped and dragged through mud. His wrists were bound so tight the rope had carved deep lines into his skin. His face was pale, eyes wide, and the kind of panic that money cannot buy its way out of was sitting right on top of him. Eli's stomach twisted with hunger and caution. 13 years old, thin as a branch, hoodie too light for the cold, he had learned the first rule of the street. Trouble is never alone. Trouble brings blame. And blame always lands on kids like him. He should have turned around. He should have melted back into the trees and stayed invisible, because invisible kept you alive. But the man's lips moved again, silent this time, begging without pride. And Eli, who had begged before and been ignored, felt something hard settle. Inside his chest, not bravery, not hope, something simpler. A choice. Eli stepped closer, slow and quiet, eyes scanning the ground, the brush, the shadows. No cars, no voices, no help. Just a man tied up like a warning, and a boy with nothing but a broken piece of metal in his pocket. Eli crouched by the knot and began to saw at the rope, careful and fast. The fibers fought back. The man trembled as the rope scraped his skin raw. Eli's hands ached, but his face stayed still, because panic was loud and loud got people found. Rope snapped. One wrist came free, then the other. The man fell forward, sucking air like he had been underwater. Eli backed up at once, ready to run, because saving someone did not mean they would save you back. The man tried to stand and nearly collapsed, legs shaking like they no longer trusted him. Eli caught him for a second, only long enough to keep him from hitting the ground. Then steadied him by the elbow like it was just another hard morning. They moved through the trees toward the road. The man stumbling, Eli guiding, both listening. 4 footsteps that never came. Every crack of a branch sounded too sharp. Every gust of wind felt like it carried a threat. Halfway there, the man dropped to one knee, breath ragged, eyes squeezed shut in pain. Eli looked at his wrists again and saw the swelling, the deep rope burns. The way the man's hands kept shaking as if his body was still tied up inside. Eli leaned in, voice flat but firm, and told him to stay quiet and keep moving, because the forest was not a place to rest when someone had gone to the trouble of hiding you. The man nodded like a child being led out of danger, and Eli felt the strange weight of it. The power of being the one who knew how to survive. At the roadside, Eli raised a hand as a car approached. The driver slowed, suspicious eyes flicking to Eli's worn clothes first, then to the bruised man in the torn suit. Trust arrived late, only after the man's weak voice proved he belonged to the world that gets believed. The phone came out. The call was made. Sirens appeared like the world had been waiting for an excuse to care. Police swarmed. Medics wrapped the man's wrists. Questions dropped like stones. Eli stood a step back, already shrinking into the role everyone expected. Background, the problem, the kid to be watched. An officer asked where his parents were. Eli felt the old heat rise behind his ribs, that familiar sting of being judged. Before he even spoke, he answered anyway, said he did not have family. The officer's face tightened in that way adults do when they decide a child's worth in one glance. And Eli knew what came next. A shelter bed if there was space. A form. A shrug. Another night of cold. Another day of hunger? Then the man in the ambulance turned his head and fixed his gaze on Eli, like Eli was the only real thing in the entire scene. His name, they said, was Grant Whitmore, a millionaire. A man with billboards and headlines and a life built to keep fear far away. But fear had found him, tied him up, left him to vanish. Grant raised his bandaged wrists and spoke so the officer could hear, so everyone could hear, and so Eli would understand what was about to change. This boy is the reason I am alive, and I will not let you treat him like a problem to be moved along. The air shifted. The officer hesitated. The medic slowed, listening. Eli's heart thudded once, hard, because protection was not something he was used to receiving. Grant's eyes did not soften into pity. They sharpened into something better. Respect. He told Eli that money did not save him. Eli did. He told Eli that real strength does not shout. It shows up when it would be easier to walk away. And then he said the line that hit Eli like a door, opening in a locked hallway. You had nothing, and you still chose to help. That tells me who you are. Eli did not know what to do with that. Praise felt dangerous. Promises felt worse. Eli had heard promises before, sweet words that disappeared by morning. So he kept his face blank, because blank was safe. 3 days later, when Eli sat outside the library, chewing stale bread and watching people pass like their lives were a different planet, a black car rolled to the curb, clean, quiet, too expensive to be there for him. Eli stood, ready to run, but the door opened and Grant stepped out in simple clothes, bruises still faint on his jaw, wrists still wrapped. He walked slowly, hands visible, like he understood how fear works in a kid who has had to survive adults. Grant told him he had not forgotten. He told him he was not there to put Eli on display or hand him a little cash and call it kindness. He said he wanted to do something that would actually change the outcome. A safe place, school support, medical care, lawyer to protect Eli's rights, not a show. A structure. Eli tried to laugh it off, tried to push him away with the only shield he had. People like you don't do this, he said with his eyes, with his posture, with the way he kept a step of distance. But Grant did not argue. He simply held steady and let the truth do the work. He told Eli that the world had trained itself to look away from kids like him, and that was not Eli's shame to carry. He told him that the most shocking thing he could do with power was not to spend it, but to aim it where it was always needed and rarely given. Then he offered a choice, real and clear, with no pressure in the words. If you want help, I will. Show up. If you do not, I will still make sure you are safe today. Eli felt his throat tighten because safety sounded like a language he had forgotten. He did not trust it yet, but he wanted it so badly it hurt. In the weeks that followed, Grant East kept showing up. Not loud, not proud, just consistent. A room with clean sheets that smelled like soap. Clothes that fit, food that did not run out. Counselor who listened without judging. School plan that did not punish Eli for falling behind while he was busy surviving. And quietly, without speeches, Grant funded more shelter space in the city, because he could not unsee what Eli's life had been. Eli watched all of it like someone waiting for the catch. But the catch never came. The only thing that arrived was a new kind of heaviness. The weight of realizing he might finally get to live, not just last. One afternoon, Eli walked out of school with a backpack on both shoulders and sunlight warming his face. Grant waited by the curb, not as a savior, not as a hero, just as a man who had learned a hard lesson in the woods. Grant asked if Eli was hungry. Eli nodded once, small and honest. Grant opened the car door like it was the simplest thing in the world, and in that quiet moment, the real shock landed. The millionaire did not just reward the boy. He stood beside him. He changed the rules around him. He made sure the kid who saved a life finally had the chance to build one. If this story hit you, comment where you're watching from and what moment made you feel the power shift. Subscribe for more stories about quiet courage, real respect, and the kind of justice that starts when someone finally decides not to look away.